It's all right.
I
We
just
just need we just need to make sure everyone, welcome to Everything Teams Phone Live, episode 25. We just cut to live production here, and I'm so happy that hair and makeup was completed right before the show. So everybody's standing in their corners over there, hair and makeup, in the event something falls out of place. We're
I was gonna say what hair? What
we're,
hair?
we're all set. We're all set. All right, everyone. Thanks for. Let's turn that volume down to get a little feedback. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Today is the show and tell edition. Now we've done a show and tell edition before, but it hasn't been as complete as this episode's show and tell. Today we get to show what text messaging looks like in Teams. It's the show where we're answering questions because, believe it or not, yes, that is a garbage truck in the back of my screen there. Believe it or not, we get questions all the time on, can we do this with Teams? Can we do that with Teams? And this is the episode that we're going to show you what you can do with Microsoft Teams Phone and a bunch of applications that you can infuse Microsoft Teams Phone with to just really eke out every bit of productivity for your company. If you're not on Microsoft Teams Phone, Brandon, should they be on Microsoft Teams Phone? Is that the answer, really?
They should be, especially after we demo the things that you can bolt on and you can do with it on top of just the native Teams Phone experience. In fact, I think as you get ready to demo one of the things, you should grab the phone number off the side of that garbage truck and let them know that they need to reschedule for another time.
this noon on Fridays isn't a good time for us, please.
I was going to say, I think the last few times I've noticed the garbage truck when we're on the show.
Pretty consistent with the timing. Pretty consistent with
the timing.
You're right.
You need to maybe see about having them put a Microsoft or our Everything Teams Phone Live logo on the side of the garbage truck to help sponsor.
There you go. There to help sponsor. That's right. We'll just put Everything Teams Phone Live on the side of that. I love the idea. Guys, could you do a rap, please? There we go. That's fantastic.
If you're gonna interrupt my show, then you're gonna need to sponsor.
That's right. That's right. Pay for that worldwide sort of watch our viewers. Okay, everyone. This is, like I said, it's the show and tell edition. You absolutely should have some drink, maybe some lunchtime food with you so that you can sit down and watch this productivity magic happen in Microsoft Teams Phone. So with that said, let me show you what we have here. We came up with this little picture, and I love this little picture because let me present my screen here. Share the screen. Let's go do this whole entire screen. We came up with this little picture, not this one. This is just our silly show screen picture, but we came up with this little picture right here. This is what's pretty darn cool. Okay, this is like in Operator Connect. You've got G12, you've got Luware from a contact center and attended console perspective, and then you've got text messaging. And I want to be clear, North America businesses and North America consumers are used to a few different things. And I'd love to hear your comments. If you think I'm wrong, if you think, not that I'm wrong, I want to put it like that, but if you suggest something different, I'd love to hear if you have a different opinion on this. But I think that North American businesses live on 3 channels. Okay. They live on text, they live on messaging, and they live on calls. And I think the shift is happening right now as people become aware of messaging and people become more familiar with messaging and texting. Texting's obviously easier because everyone has a mobile device and they can text, and it's pretty darn easy. Messaging a bit different. You know what? The other day, this is interesting. The other day, I had to go extend one of my hotel reservations for a trip I was going on, and I was like, oh, I've got to call them, and I've got to let them know that, I need to extend. And I didn't look forward to the engagement. I was a bit, like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to spend 5 or 10 minutes on a phone call telling someone what I want. And I decided to proactively, like intentionally use messaging because I never do, because I'm old, guys. I'm old. So it's like, I like to call people and talk to people. I like the intrusiveness of a phone call.
I know that firsthand because you call me all the time. I'm like, God, why is he calling me again? And I just mean personally, like,
Do you
come
see
on,
all the
Rick,
gray?
text
Do you
me,
see all
text
the
me.
gray? You see all the gray. That's what that indicates.
Uh,
Gray means calls. All right. So,
uh,
so that's, so it's exciting to go ahead. And so I was excited to go ahead and try the messaging. And I said, okay, I need to extend my reservation. I can't remember where this was at. It was in Vancouver, Canada. So it was in Vancouver, BC, right? I live in Seattle. It's in Vancouver, BC. Excited to go and stay there. And I was like, you know what, let me extend my trip a little bit. So I sent a note to the hotel and the message pops up. I start engaging and they're like, yep, we know exactly what you want. Done and done. Reservation, new confirmation reservation. I was like, whoa, it was literally like a minute, maybe 2 minutes max. And I was so surprised at how efficient that was. And I thought, North America is going to migrate obviously from calls, right, to text and messaging as a regular medium for communications. Obviously, it's happening now. Everybody uses it now, but again, it's not as I think phone calls are still the dominant. That's why we got call centers and call center functionality. Phone calls are still the dominant way of communicating from a volume perspective. So if you go poll a business, the business say, obviously depends, but let's just say a contact center or something like that. They're going to say 60 or 70% of phone calls, 20 or 30% messaging and, and a smidge of texting. Right.
well,
So go ahead.
I was going to say, it's been a little bit ago, but back to your example of text, I'll say this: I did the dreaded task of needing to replace my cable modem with my cable internet provider, and I'm not one who's about to pay the monthly rental fee for their piece of garbage modem. So I own my own modem. So I get this new modem to
Of course you do.
get to the new DOCSIS standard or whatever it is, and I'm dreading it because I know that they need to know what my modem is based on the MAC address so it can provision and they can swap it out. And I'm thinking, okay, I already hate this cable company. I won't say any names. So I'm dreading this phone call to them because I'm like, one, I know I'm going to get to, customer service and I'm just going to be tossed around for 30, 40, 50 minutes. And then I'm going to cross my fingers. I work from home. I'm going to cross my fingers that they actually do it right so that I can continue working. But I was actually pleasantly surprised in my experience in that I called them. They took my call. I explained what I needed. And the next question they asked me, I thought they were going to put me on hold, transfer me. The next question they asked is they said, hey, we can do this via text messaging. Would you prefer to move to a text channel? And I said, sure, let's give it a try. And they moved me to SMS. They sent me an SMS. They confirmed I got it. We hung up the call. And 3 text messages later, my modem was replaced. And
Wow.
I loved that. I'm like, that's probably the best experience I've ever had with a cable company.
Okay. See, that's pretty impressive. So clearly the cable company is set up to take messages, to work with text messaging, to work with, customers that way. And their contact center has that built in. So what's interesting to me is that, you've got a whole contact center solution that is probably doing that sort of engagement or managing that engagement process. One day we're going to get to, I think an environment where the messaging and the ability to handle messaging and tickets is going to be inherent in whatever solution you live in, right? Versus a big platform that you go and have everything that you need. Maybe you just have a messaging application platform. Let's do this. Let's kick off the show and tell. And again, looking for your comments. If you have a different perspective, if you think something is different than what we're saying, I'd love to hear your comments. But let's do this. I want to kick this off, Brandon, and I want to show what people can expect in text messaging. What does text messaging look like in Microsoft Teams? It's obviously not native to Microsoft Teams. It's an application that we've got in there. So I want to show what that looks like. And I'm not going to go plug it a whole bunch. I'm just going to show you the functionality so you can see what the functionality looks like in Teams and how this works and how this could work in your business. So I'm going to share my screen or I'm going to just drag my Teams over. Now, this is my personal texting, sort of application. And this is my production Teams environment. So for those of you who want to send, in fact, if there's anyone listening of the millions of viewers, I should say, of the millions of viewers that are watching and have a phone with them, if they'd like to text me, it's this simple: 425-429-7501. You can text that number right there. And
Oh
maybe
my goodness.
we can
I
use you as an
just
example.
I just signed you up for
Everything, spam,
everything. Yep.
everything. All right. Well, there's my number. And so I'm going to go and I'm going to go show you what a text engagement looks like. So here you go. Hello, Rick G. How are you? Now, this is a mobile device. Don't know what mobile device this is, but I'm going to go ahead and type a message to that mobile device and see if they respond back. How's the show? Oh, it happens to be how's the show. So let's do that. Here is how your text messaging could work in Microsoft Teams, right? So if you can imagine your team, your associates, your part of your organization, if direct communication with the consumer, whether actually wealth management is a big one for us, right? Wealth management, the financial industry, service industry, they're all really big text users. And so this is just how simple it looks and clean in Microsoft Teams for us. You can see that my icon here says texting. It's pretty clean. It looks like just like files, calls, calendar, Teams. It looks, chat. It looks exactly like the Microsoft Teams environment. It just says texting right there. And just so you guys know, on everything Teams Phone Live, you've got advanced access to our press release that goes out next Tuesday or Wednesday. So you've got advanced access on what this looks like. So that's pretty cool. So texting in Microsoft Teams looks nice and simple with our sort of application that lives in there. So I think that's about all for showing what I'm going to show in the texting. There's Brandon, you've got some comments on the groups and the context portion of this, don't you?
Well, there's a couple of things. There's, what you're showing is the end user, individual user experience where, this is set up to behave much like what everyone's used to, right? The mobile handset user experience where it's, I have my phone number, I have my SMS, I know exactly how to text, I know how to manage all of that, whether you're saving a number as a contact or you want to manage a group message where you want to send to multiple people at the same time, which is what the groups is for. But we'll even take it a step further, and we can set this up where you can receive an inbound message and assign it to multiple users within your team's phone system environment or your team's ecosystem, I'll say. And there's a lot of use cases for that, right? Maybe it's as a business you want to streamline and manage, kind of a single pane of glass, right? So you want to funnel communication into the business, and you want multiple eyes to see that communication. We can set that up in a group fashion. And then the last piece that's not obvious in what you're showing, and it's more on the back end, is we can, especially since you mentioned like the financial sector,
Yep.
Whether banking or financial advising, or even let's talk about large law offices that might want to use it. We can connect that texting platform to your data loss prevention systems for compliance. So now what you can do from, if there's the CISOs, the security officers listening that are going, well, we don't like SMS because we can't control it. We have no visibility into it. We can't make sure that data is not leaking. We can actually take this platform and give you compliance because we now can connect you to your data loss prevention system.
So in that you mean global relay or somebody like that, someone who's capturing everything within a Teams environment so that the organization stays compliant. Okay, there you go. I mean that's obviously for the enterprise business out there that and the folks that we end up talking to are 2,000 users and 500 users of independent texters, and then they've got groups that manage texting, things like that. So you can capture everything in, let's say, a global relay so that you can remain compliant and control. Here's what this does, though. This really kind of collapses the tech stack for an organization and the communication tools for an independent for a user. So it collapses all the tools into Microsoft Teams. We say this over and over, how Teams is becoming the business operating system. We were on a call yesterday where the individual said, we have so many things connected into Teams now. It's like our business operating system. And I'm like, I've been saying it all along. It's the business operating system now. When you learn about the productivity, you got to think about it like this. It's like the Apple, OS, right? Where you've got all the applications on that from a productivity perspective live on Apple, and you can just layer in your productivity tools as needed, and it becomes your business operating system. So it was awesome to hear that, because as validation that we're at least from a product perspective, we're heading down the right path. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Brandon. So I guess let me just kind of restate what you just said where you said that this application can be deployed in teams with groups of people. So I think of that as, let's say I've got a support group or let's say a parts department or whatever. I can put this in a group. Therefore, everybody in that group could then manage the text message that comes in. So text message comes in. Everyone in that particular group has the ability to message. You can see when someone else is messaging it, so you can see the latest replies if someone has registered that. And then there's obviously APIs so that you can actually whisk these away into a CRM as needed, et cetera. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I just took over the screen share.
For
anyone that's
didn't even tell
anyone
me, just took it.
Yeah, I just took it. Sometimes I just have to do what I want to do. Anyone that's familiar with the Teams environment knows how to set up, a new Teams group within the application, and then adding and managing the members within that group. So, again, this is all native to the Microsoft Teams ecosystem, right? I'm not doing anything outside of that wheelhouse. I create a group. I can in that group, I can manage the team, right? So as the owner, I can decide who my members or my guests are of that group. And then based on the membership and the role of that membership, now I can start to control the access to things. For this use case, it's a shared SMS environment now. Right. And one of the big use cases we see, secure or not, that's debatable, is I got to find my test phone here, is we see a lot of businesses coming to us that they have maybe a contact center environment, or they have a large shared environment where multiple users need to be able to log into a platform, software as a service, whatever. And there's maybe an MFA code that's tied to that. And their challenge is, hey, how do we deliver that MFA code to, the group of users versus it goes to one user. Now that user's got to grab the code and IM it to another person to make sure that they can get in. So let's see, I'm going to generate a login code. And again, I briefly showed the members, right? There's 5 or 6 members in this group. So I try to log into a portal. It needs me to log in. Here in a minute, I should get the login code. All right, here it is. Your login portal code is, boom. Anyone that's a member of this group message can now see that code and retrieve it. So that's just one real world example of that.
That's, I guess if you have a list of ways to use texting, right? You've got the person-to-person communication. You've got managing a number for a group or a department, let's just say. And then obviously you've got it to manage any, I'll call this, a 2FA sort of registrations or things like that, right? And people always, more and more, 2FA and MFA is kicking in. And so you have to have tools to be able to ingest those, those verifications. And having it on your personal cell phone as an organization is, again, you want to keep your personal cell phone personal, right? And that's your at home number, and being able to collapse everything that you need from the business into the business tool, into Teams is, I think if you're asking any CISO out there, they're preferring that.
Yeah. And here's the other thing that, for any, technical person listening, The other thing that I don't think the correlation gets made right away is in this type of setup, this group phone number that's being texted to is different than my personal phone number that I might have text enabled on, like what you're demoing. So now what we've done is we've created an environment where a single user could have 6, 10, unlimited amount of SMS numbers that they're managing, depending on if they're a group member of those channels.
Part of a
Right?
group, right? So yeah.
Mm,
So someone that's in sales can be part of the sales group and be part of the service group and be part of whatever else group so that they can see the messages going back and forth and see the engagement.
yep. Yep.
For organizations, that do use texting as a medium, this is just, I'm not going to call it groundbreaking, but this is just so awesome. Like, it is a really amazing tool to be able to leverage a channel like texting and have it so simply engage or integrated into the Teams interface here, or the Teams ecosystem. It's all built on the Graph API, so it's native to Teams, doesn't go anywhere else. That's what's also important about contact center things. So let's do this, Brandon. Why don't we do? I want to get through a few things. I want to show organizations that maybe haven't used the Teams interface for phone calling, what that looks like. But I want to be really brief about that, because I think what's more important is to show everyone the attended console so that they can understand how a business works. When they have a high volume of calls coming into a receptionist, let's just say. So I want to show that. I want to show, everyone still asks us about this. How does Teams integrate with Salesforce? We're going to show you what that looks like and how complex it is. I'm kidding. It's not complex. It's super easy. And how super easy it is to integrate with Salesforce. And then I want to show them did I say the attended console already? The attended console. No. I said the Teams interface, the attended console, and Salesforce integration. Let's show those things so that we can see. I really want to get to how can people use Teams phone and Teams in general as their business operating system and what it means. And then I've got this slide here that I'm showing. The only reason I'm showing this slide is to really just help buy a little time for Brandon here. But what I want to show you is this: in the contact center solution, our Lure engagement, our Lure partnership. I want to show you what this looks like. So you've got Microsoft Teams. Lure sits inside Microsoft Teams, and Brandon's going to show you the attended console from Lure. But what I want to show you are these things out here that it just looks like a huge mess out here. If you're looking at it on LinkedIn, you don't know what all this means potentially. But what I want to show you is that how this serves as the gateway to a lot of different services, and how this serves as a gateway to business automation, right? Intelligent automation, how it relates to your customer journey, right? So all these components are layered into your contact center solution. So let me go through these really quickly, Brandon. I just want to talk about how they can each be used, but I'm going to be really brief about it. Okay. All right. Power BI. I think everybody that's a Microsoft shop understands what Power BI is, right? The ability for you to pull data statistics and display them in an easy way, in a very configurable way, so that you can see statistics on whatever you need to see statistics on. In this scenario, we're using it for showing you call center statistics, right? We're going to show you, calls and queue stats and auto attendance stats and a whole lot more. Very granularly, we can break things up and deliver them via Power BI. Great. Why don't you say a bit about the bot framework? I think that's super, super interesting, but I want to try to keep it brief. So why don't you kind of briefly explain what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can demo it better than I can explain it. And by that, I mean, because you know me, once I start explaining something technical, I'll go so far into the weeds. Even
Okay.
Even our listeners will be like, "Okay, it's nap time." But just one example of a bot that I think is really relevant to certain sectors of industries, right? Financial, legal, whatever. One example is call recording, compliant based call recording. And one way you're going to accomplish that within the Teams ecosystem is you're going to create a bot, and you're going to pair that bot back into, whether it's Luware's Nimbus or it's natively to Teams, like what I'm going to demonstrate, for compliant based call recording. And that's all done through the bot you create that bot within Azure Communication Services, and you tie that back to the team's phone system. And now I have a way to take a phone call in, fork it out to the bot, and grab that recording and then save it off to a compliant recording solution.
All right. Very good. Cognitive services. What are cognitive services, Brandon? Cognitive services.
I mean, there's lots of different things we could talk about here. One, from a contact center perspective, I'd say one would be, think about, you want to understand the sentiment of your client, right? Are they mad? Are they upset? Are they happy? Is something my agent saying upsetting my customer or making my customer happy, right? So I can now tap into AI services, and I can create solutions like sentiment analysis, where I can analyze. It could be voice, could be text, could be email, could be really any channel you want, and you can begin to build I'll call it a heat map of your customers, and you can start to very quickly figure out, am I delivering exceptional service? Am I struggling in certain areas? What do my customers love me for? What do they hate me for?
Perfect. Here's my favorite, Azure Communication Services. Now, for an easy way to understand what Azure Communication Services can do, it is really, if you take some of the features in Microsoft Teams like chat, video, calls, okay, if you take those features, think about exposing those features. Now, you're going to disassociate the Teams interface here. Take those features and externalize those into an application or into a website, right? So think about, from a healthcare perspective, Microsoft built a connector to Epic and Cerner, are the big ERPs for healthcare. And they built a video component into those applications so that you can have clinicians engage in telehealth, right? That is an amazing way that Azure Communication Services can be used via Teams and via an application that is external to Microsoft Teams, right? So now you've got the underlying infrastructure of Microsoft Teams being used to create tools within an application or within a website. So think about all the chatbots that sit on websites today, in a way that you can expose the different features of Teams into those tools, so that you can have a really, what it comes down to again is collapsing that tech stack, where your entire communication systems or your entire engagement, your customer engagement, lives in Microsoft Teams, creating significant productivity gains. So Azure Communication Services, one of my favorite. Power Automate is the second. I'll let you take a little bit of Power Automate and then I'll hop in there. But Power Automate is my second favorite. And really, this is all fantastic, guys. When you work in this space, you just look at this and go, a business, why would a business do anything else? It blows my mind. So anyways, that's why don't you tell us a little about Power Automate, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, Power Automate is really just kind of a logic flow, if you will, for setting if-then rule statements, right? So you want to influence a decision from the team side, or in this picture we can see SharePoint on the other side. You want to start beginning to influence some decisions that get made based on logic. So one example might be, and this is a pretty basic example of, you've got a contact center who manages, or maybe if it's even the attendant console that we'll show a little later, you have someone who's managing an external contact list. So someone who, I need to add Rick Garcia and your mobile number to a contact list because I'm constantly transferring calls to your cell phone or something. One way that I can do that is I can create, this is a really simple example, but I could create a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet in SharePoint with just basic information. Maybe it's name, phone number, and maybe type of phone number, mobile, landline, whatever. I can then create a path from SharePoint to Teams via Power Automate to say, anytime that I add a new contact to this spreadsheet, I want it to update a view within Teams so that the user can very quickly locate that contact and transfer the call to that contact. So again, a very basic example, but it's just if-then statements. Like, it can be used for email too. If this email comes in, send me alert maybe it's a send an alert to Teams and let me know I've gotten an email. Again, if then logic.
We had a guest on, I think, before, where they said that anytime their boss emailed them, they got an alert on their watch, right? They had a watch on, so they saw every time so they got an alert on the watch, and they could quickly respond. How cool is that? And so, months and months later, the person says, the boss is like, "You're so amazing at responding to my emails. Whenever I send emails out, you're fantastic." And it was because they got alerts on their watch when their boss emailed. I thought that was really cool, and that was done in the Power platform out. So it's exciting to see all these different components. Again, businesses. I'm an entrepreneur. I love business in general. I love different business models, and when I see a tool like Teams and the automation and the communication, I look at this and go, wow, there's so many amazing ways to serve customers better. It just gets very exciting, and this is why we even do the show, so we can say, hey, this is better. This is better than what you're doing, and it's a better platform than what you're doing today. If you're on-prem, if you're on an existing cloud PBX provider, it is better than what you're doing today, because there are so many things you can build into this infrastructure. It gets super exciting. Okay.
Well, and the only thing I'll add there is, like, if you remember, you go back 5, 6, 7 years, when omni-channel was the biggest buzzword in the industry, like omni-channel, we want to sell omni-channel. Ultimately, everything we're talking about is the culmination of that buzzword, right? Like this diagram that we're looking at. Really, all it is omni-channel. You're creating a unified space to bring multiple channels into a single pane of glass.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to necessarily be all contact center stuff, right? This is we love the contact center space. Don't get me wrong. We have a lot of, deployments that we support that are using full contact center solutions. But if you're an organization that wants to have omni-channel, and maybe you don't need a full contact center solution, these are ways that we can build these out in Microsoft Teams. It makes it super simple. Mm-hmm. So, okay, Brandon, let's move on to the next thing. Why don't you show us what the Teams interface looks like? And let's just cover that like in 2 minutes, and then let's kick on to the next, to the attended console or whatever we're going to show here.
Yeah, let me get my screen back up.
There you go.
I mean, once you've seen one soft phone interface, I think you've kind of, and this isn't to discredit Microsoft or anyone else, but I think if you know what a soft phone is, you're familiar with what you're looking at on the screen, right? It's your typical dial pad with your the one thing I do like about this is I can never remember my own phone number. So it puts it right in front of my face when I'm on the phone. Someone's like, "What's your phone number?" Oh, yeah, it's right here. But all the functionality in the Teams phone system that you would expect a phone system to have, anything from, parking a call, transferring a call, speed dial, contact lists. You can create your own contact, per user unique contact lists. Most people would call that a phone book. Down to 911 management, right? If today I'm working in the office and tomorrow I want to go to, your favorite coffee shop and work from there, I can update the address of my location for 911 services. I can handle how I want to forward my calls. Do I want to forward to a cell phone? Do I want to forward to a call group, meaning have a group help me with incoming phone calls? Do I want to forward to delegates, which is kind of the same thing as call group? One's managed by the front end user, the other one's managed by the back end phone system. Do I want to just send a voicemail? All kinds of normal phone system stuff. What headset am I working from? Whether it's Bluetooth, microphone, headset, whatever. What else? What else do you want to know? Voicemails. I can look at I can listen to voicemails. I can look at the transcription of the voicemail if I don't feel like listening to it.
Yeah.
I guess back on the call history, I can do, click to call, meaning I miss a call. I can just come over here and hit the call button and immediately call that person back. So that, I don't know if that was under 2 minutes.
That's perfect. That's what I was looking for. Just that that's why I didn't interrupt. I'm like, let's just, here's the interface, as simple as it is. It's robust in features. that you live
Yeah,
on Microsoft Teams.
the one thing I will say, I mean, where this starts to expose some of its power and more embedded features that again we could spend a lot of time talking about, but I'm just gonna a number in for now, just so I have some number that I'm gonna dial and I can call that. But the other interesting thing is, if I'm working for a business, let's say I'm you know I'm in my role, right? And it's a technical role, but let's say I need to call a customer back, but I'm following up from a different perspective, like maybe account management perspective. Again, this is as a business, you decide how you want to do this, but I can actually ignore the naming convention here because it's my own sloppy naming convention. But I could literally set up as many line appearances as I want, and I can originate my phone call from, maybe I want to come from the 800 number because I don't want anybody to call me back directly. Or I could come from, maybe it's a sales line, right? I'm going to go call someone to clarify maybe a pre-sales question, but I want them to, if they're going to call back, I want them to call back to the sales queue. So lots of flexibility here. And this is, pretty big in the space anymore is, hey, can I have shared line appearance? And the answer is absolutely.
Nice. Okay, excellent. Let's do the attended console, because that's really an exciting sort of view into how everyday businesses work still. Believe it or not, there's still lots and lots of receptionists out there, law firms, financial firms, organizations, still maintain that sort of structure. And so the tools that they have to execute on delivering calls in Microsoft Teams live right here. So this is pretty exciting to see. So I'm going to leave it to you to keep on. I'll just ask a couple of questions, Brandon.
Yeah. I'm just getting I'm actually going to, just so that I don't create a bunch of audio feedback, I'm going to end up taking a call, but I'm going to take it from my Teams client on my cell phone, just so that I can continue to explain what's going on the screen.
Nice.
So before we do that, though, let's kind of break this down. This goes back to our partnership with Luware. This is a extended integration into the Teams ecosystem, specifically the Teams phone system, where I'm laying this, what I'll call this application, on top of Teams phone. The call is going to stay on your phone system. It's not going anywhere else. I'm putting kind of a wrapper over the top to start influencing what I do with phone calls. In the Teams phone system, there is no native attendant console, and a lot of businesses at least that we talk to, they're familiar with the old style attendant consoles that the sidecars that sit on a phone on a desk. And a lot of businesses ask us, like, hey, if I have reception that's responsible for taking a ton of calls, how does that person take the call and quickly transfer it off to a department or a person within the department? So what we do is we partner with Luware. We create this attendant console, and we can assign users to the various services that user needs to be a part of. So as part of the demo, what we've done is we've created 3 services within our environment. One is our contact center, and 2 are our attendant consoles based on office location.
Oh, that's cool. Yep.
So what I can do then is, depending, again, this is all permission based, right? But if, for example, you've got Brett and Carmen who actually show away, they are actively taking calls for the attendant console in Kirkland, Washington, whereas I'm actively taking calls for the attendant console in our Denver, Colorado office. But you can see that Brett and Carmen are not available. So if I can see that there's calls that start to queue up, I can actually, again, sitting from Denver, I can just quickly go flip myself into the attendant console. My status for that console turns green. I'm available to take and handle those calls. Right. So it's really, really dynamic in that traditional attendant consoles, they're sitting on a desk in the environment. And if someone steps away from that desk, it doesn't matter how many calls queue up, no one's at the desk to take the call. So now I've extended my boundaries to, virtually represent that location.
Right. The other office. That's cool.
And then from there, there's a lot of different things we can do, but let's actually get into the behavior of it. So I need to get a call here.
Live demo, fingers crossed here. Let's go.
Or maybe what I'll do is I will have you dial the number.
Okay.
So that way I'm not trying to manage 3 different things at the same time.
I will dial the number. Let me do that. I will call from my mobile Teams device.
Yeah, just get it queued up, but don't hit dial because I want to flip to another screen before you dial.
Okay, sounds good. Let me get it queued up. What is the number I should be dialing, Brandon?
303 531 0910.
All right. I've got it queued up. I have not hit send. You tell me when.
So I've flipped back over to my attendant console, and we'll just very briefly cover this so you can kind of keep an eye on what's going on. I'm looking at a real-time view of the attendant console, and I'm actually looking at both attendant consoles right now because I'm in the service for both of them. But I can see how many calls are in queue, what the longest call is that's been waiting, what service if I'm on a call, what service I'm attending, meaning Denver or Kirkland. You'll see that here in a minute. What the conversation data is if I'm on the call, and then of course that I'm active or not within the attendant console. Then you come down, you can see the list of calls that would be in queue. You can see what's incoming. You can see what I'm actively handling, and then you would be able to see if I've parked a call. And then in the middle, again, this is where I've set my favorites. Maybe I have a bunch of contacts that I'm constantly transferring calls to. I can pin them to a dashboard where I can very quickly just take a call and move that call on to the next person. So go ahead and make that call, Rick.
Okay.
And he's going to call in, and he's actually going to get a greeting. Thank you for calling the offices, in Denver, Colorado, blah, 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 blah. Please hold. And as soon as he gets beyond that recording, you'll see that we're going to see your call queue up. And then I'm going to get, because I'm in the queue, I'm going to get the phone call.
Please hold while we connect you to our reception.
Yep. So here comes the incoming call.
This call is being recorded.
I'm going to take it here. Okay. And now I'm on the call, and I actually think we're also doing compliance call recording on this call as well. So that's something we can flip to next after we're done with this. Is to show
beautiful.
Kind of the bot, our bot integration for compliance call recording.
We didn't even have compliance recording chalked up to show today. This is exciting.
I'm bringing a bonus to this conversation.
Okay.
But before we go there, here's our active call. You can see I've taken the call from this number. You can see the service that that I'm actively working in. So I'm on the attendant console for Denver, Colorado. I've been talking for, 40 seconds. Now let's say I've taken your call and you're looking for somebody, and I'm like, hey, that's actually the Kirkland, Washington office. You're going to need to talk to someone in Kirkland. I can very quickly, based on how I've set up my contacts, I can come down here and go, oh, I'm just, I don't know, maybe you don't know who you need to talk to, or I don't know who you need to talk to in Kirkland, Washington. I can just drop you into the Kirkland, Washington office and let them take you from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and transfer you. There's several transfer options I could spend a ton of time talking about, but since I want to show compliance recording and we're coming to the top of the hour, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. I'm just going to do a safe transfer, which means I'm going to attempt to transfer you. If it fails, your call's going to come right back to me in Denver.
Oh, I like the safe transfer.
We're going to do safe transfer. It's gone. Now what you'll see is I'm attending Kirkland, Washington as well. So this call should come right back in to the queue. Unless, are you still connected? Oh, here it comes.
Yep, still connected. I heard a greeting saying my call is being transferred.
And here comes the call again. And you can see it's in queue now. It's presenting to me. So queued up, incoming is presenting to me. I'm going to answer it.
What I want to make clear, just what's simple about this, Brandon, you just hit answer on your Teams device. I mean, you just took the call on your Teams device. You weren't hitting a button in the screen here. you just on your team's device. So is it fair to say you can be part of the contact center and take calls on any device?
Yep, any device.
That's cool.
Yep, you don't have to be working in the same client as the environment. It's again, it's the phone system that sits underneath this. So if I've got a physical phone that I'm picking up and answering, or in this case, I'm answering on my mobile client, but you can still see that I can influence the decision of the call from within my attendant console, even though the actual call is sitting on my mobile phone.
Nice.
So there you see, now I'm working with you in Kirkland, Washington, and you're probably saying, didn't I just talk to you? And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm in that queue. But anyway, I'm going to hang up on you.
Wait, before you hang up on me.
Oh, too late.
How do you send someone off to, how do you notify someone that someone called for them? How would you do that?
Yeah, right over here in your contact list, I can either, let's say you've called in, I can generate, and maybe you should just call me back really quick so I can show you this. Call me back. I can't believe someone would hang up on you. I don't care which number you call. You can just hit redial.
I'm going to go to my history and I'm going to redial. It's that easy in Microsoft Teams. But I'm going to hit mute so I don't get any feedback.
Yeah, and I see Neil's actually green. Maybe he'll actually respond. Maybe I'll send you to Neil. It says he's got a PTO alert, but he's green, which means he's working.
Perfect. Let's bug him.
All right, here comes the call. Okay, I'm going to answer again. I'm answering on my mobile. Okay, so I've got it. So back to your question, how do I alert or engage with someone before I transfer the call? I can, couple things. First, I can look at their calendar. I can just click the calendar button and quickly see, does this is he already scheduled? Is he available? That way I can very quickly have a conversation with the caller about, hey, I see Neil, he appears to be free, but he's actually booked right now. So can I have him call you back in, say, an hour? I see he's free in an hour. From there, I can either send him a Teams instant message by hitting the chat button, and I can choose to create if we've created a template, I can choose to auto generate a message to him, or I can type my own with no template. So let's just click on, let's do English. I've created a template, just says, hey, Neil, following customers trying to reach you. Can you call them back? Again, this is dynamic, so I can add my additional lingo if I want to.
Right.
And then I can hit send. And just like that, I've sent it off to Neil. He can then choose to respond or not respond. So while we're waiting to see if he responds, I can come back to the attendant console. Again, I've left the attendant console, but that doesn't mean the call has left the attendant console. You can see the call still active. I'm still on my cell phone talking to the caller.
That is cool. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if let's say it's just taking a while for him to respond, and I'm not going to sit here forever waiting for Neil to respond. So I'm going to say, hey, caller, hey, Rick, doesn't look like Neil's responding. Can I send you to his voicemail? I can then, whoops, I don't know what I just clicked on. I can click on, let's go with a line transfer, and I can either try to send it to Neil and it'll ring until it eventually goes to voicemail, or I can just drop that call directly to voicemail. If I say, hey, Rick, you know what, Neil's not responding, can I drop you to his voicemail? And you say, sure. Then I can
he's on PTO. He's on PTO.
And that's the other cool thing about the note is exactly that is, I can pull out of office notifications. I can set notes as the receptionist and, oh yeah, you know what? Hey, Neil's on PTO.
That's great. Yeah. All right. I love the attendant console. Think about this, Brandon, again, from a business perspective, you look to save strokes, you look to save keystrokes, you look to save seconds and minutes on any engagement, right? You want the engagement to be complete. You want the engagement to be positive. but you want the engagement to be quick typically, right? Because if you're assigning a dollar amount or an engagement, to any person, there is some sort of, productivity number that you're going to put on some of this stuff. So being able to put templates in front of a receptionist and have click of a button, have it completed. There's no more typing. They don't have to send a note to anybody. They don't have to put something in hold and run down the hallway and say, hey, you got to call. I mean, this is just so efficient, and from a customer's perspective, complete, right? Because you're call this customer back. Here's the number. Here's their contact information. Right off of this thing, right into my messages. It's just super cool. Love to see this stuff.
And so, part of that too, then, is within the Teams environment. Again, this is all managed through the Teams team module, right? Where I'm setting up, and I can just, based on membership, I can add people to the attendant console or not. But the other thing is, okay, so now I can come here, I can look at my stats from the attendant console, but let's say that you and I chatted for a bit and Neil wasn't available, and Neil comes back from PTO and Neil's like, well, what did the customer want? What did you guys talk about? And I go, I don't remember. Oh, wait a minute. That call's recorded. So here comes the little nugget, right? For compliance recording purposes, or even as a business practice, you just want call recording. I can now go back to that bot conversation we had earlier, and we can embed our compliant cloud recording solution. And I can very quickly, as a member of maybe the attendant console, I can very quickly go in and be like, you know what, Neil, I don't remember what we talked about, but you can go in and you can find the call that happened on July 14th at 1:48, and you can listen to the call, or you can, download the call and listen to it later. But again, not leaving Teams now, I can even access the compliance side of my business.
Man, that's cool. Look at that. So there's the call recording and interface, and you see the call information there. Is there a transcription component?
There is. In this demo, at this moment, I don't have it turned on, but there is transcription. So I could have the call transcribed to text, and you could just read it. And then you think about the power of that. You could technically take that transcription and just pipe it right to a Teams channel, or a Teams chat, or an email, or a CRM if you want to.
Yeah, so you can drop the text and drop the file into a CRM. Where does this? So basically, and could we also make the recordings live inside of a customer SharePoint if they wanted?
Yep. So if the customer has we have two deployment models. We have our provider space, where you can just record directly into our provider space. Now, obviously, for true compliance, most companies aren't going to go for that. So we have, when we set the customer up for call recording, they can choose their own Microsoft environment to dump that call recording into. And it's literally 2 clicks of a button and they're done. And now they own the entire recorded storage and security of that. And then if they want to tie that to, again, other compliancy tools, that's all, they've already built all that. So now it's all within their wheelhouse.
Wow. We've given our listeners a lot to consume today. So we started off text messaging. Last thing, Brandon, you've got 5 minutes to show us what the Salesforce integration looks like. Because we've gone through text messaging, we've gone through it, the Teams interface for phone, the Teams phone interface. We've gone through the attended console, what that looks like. We've gone through the compliance recording, and now for the finale, and we can drum roll it, it's going to be the Salesforce integration. And I want you to show the policy, Brandon, that shows how difficult it is to do the Salesforce integration.
Well, let's do this. I'm going to show this. I'm going to show the Salesforce, and then I'll go show how simple it is. Right? I think it'll be more fun to do it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate a phone call. I got to find my app. Unfortunately, I have to do this phone call because I haven't set any of your test stuff up for your test numbers up for Screen Pop. So I'm going to dial my number. I dial it correctly. I feel under the gun now because now I'm the one doing the full demo, and me and demos don't often get along.
That's why I cross my fingers every time we say we're making a phone call. I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's do this.
So what the demo is going to show is I'm going to take an inbound call and I'm going to screen pop my Salesforce CRM environment, and I'm going to pop, based on the caller's phone number, I'm going to pop their contact information in Salesforce. And obviously once that pop happens to Salesforce, you can manipulate Salesforce to do pretty much whatever you want with that call data. But here comes my call. Hopefully I get it. And you should see I have a browser open in the background. You should see that pop here. Okay, here comes the call. I'm going to answer it.
Oh, look at that.
There's my screen pop. Let me mute myself here real quick so you can see I've got the phone call going, but I've got the screen pop. Here's the number that came in, right? We'll match that up. You see that, never mind, I have it saved as a contact, so you can't see it. But again, it could be pulling contact information. If you're a sales organization and there's a deal opportunity that's also tied to that contact, again, it's going to pull anything it matches based on that information. I don't need to explain how powerful a tool like Salesforce is.
Love that. Brandon, is there a way to show teams and this is an off the cuff question. So is there a way to, I thought that now you could do screen pops and keep it within teams, or not yet?
Not yet. But real quick, since we're 2 minutes down, I'm going to get into the Teams phone system just to show how very, very simple that was to set up.
Complex, Brandon. It's
complex. That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
This is why we make all the professional services dollars here. This is because it's complex. I'm kidding, folks. It's super easy. This is you getting certified now. We're going to send you a certification. If you're watching this right now, we're going to send you a certification that you can do Salesforce and Teams integration. Are you ready?
That's right. So it's all influenced by in the Teams Admin Center under Voice. It's all influenced by a calling policy. You can see I've created one that is call recording with screen pop. Now let me just real quick explain this. Call recording is Microsoft's native solution. That's what we call convenience call recording. It is not the same thing that I just showed with compliance call recording. So don't let that confuse you.
I'm going to come back to that and answer. We're going to talk for like 30 seconds on that some more, but go ahead.
So here's the two things you need on the phone system. You're going to set the open app and browser for incoming PSTN. You're going to toggle that to on, and you're going to say what URL you want to pop and what variable you want to insert into that search string. In this case, I'm inserting phone, which is the caller's phone number. That's it. The only other thing,
are we done?
Yeah, the only other thing that the user has to do, and this could be influenced maybe by, policy set from Active Directory or whatever, but it would be under the settings of the Teams client under calls. You have to make sure that this one setting is checked where Teams is allowed to open the third-party browser to pop that URL. So those are the 3 settings you need to make that work.
3 settings, and you've got Salesforce integration, HubSpot integration, basically just about any app.
Yeah, and I've actually seen where people, they create their own, so they.
And we seem to have lost Brandon momentarily. Dun, dun, dun,
I just disappeared for a second. But they build their own music. Yeah, they build their own middleware to do all this. So instead of going directly to Salesforce, you could build your own middleware, send it to your middleware, and then create, you could fork it to Salesforce, HubSpot. You could send it to multiple locations at the same time, I guess is all I'm trying to say.
That is cool. Let's talk real quick for 1 minute on compliance recording versus convenience recording. What's the difference between the two, Brandon? And we've lost him. So convenience recording obviously is there. Are you back?
Yeah, I don't know. Am I?
I'll cover the convenience recording. It's obviously when you're recording a meeting, everyone, you can go up to Teams and go hit record meeting. That is convenience recording. You can turn it on. You can turn it off. You can do it at will, at leisure. Compliance recording is something entirely different. And you people in the healthcare and financial organizations, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So Brandon, hit us with compliance recording.
Yeah, compliance is your compliance officer, whoever your designated role is, controls the policy, whether it's always recorded, whether users are allowed to listen to the recordings, access the recordings, delete the recordings. So convenience, again, it stores in the user's SharePoint. They have full control over that recording, and they get to choose whether the call is being recorded or not.
Done and done. That's the show, everyone. Boy, we packed a bunch in there. Like I said, text messaging, attended console, the Teams interface for people, convenience versus compliance recording. We talked about the extensibility of Microsoft Teams as it relates to bot work or bot framework, Power BI, cognitive services, Azure communication services, Power Automate. So we've shown a whole bunch of those things. It was just a power hour full of Teams goodness. So
I like that power hour.
It's power hour. Woo. All right. So everyone, thank you very much for spending your lunchtime with us here on the Pacific coast, right? So 12 noon. Stay tuned for episode 26 next Friday, 12 o'clock. We'll always be here every Friday. I'm going to do this show from Paris in a few weeks. That's crazy, but I'm going to do it anyway. It'll be the evening time. I might have a glass of champagne, but I'm definitely going to do it. So that being said, everyone, thank you for joining us for episode 25. Brandon, as always, we appreciate your technical prowess. We'll catch you guys later, everyone.
Have a great weekend. See ya.